Oh, snap. Welcome back to the channel, y'all. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, subscribe to the channel. Do all the things, y'all. Subscribe to the channel. Go ahead, hit the thumbs up button. We're going to be talking about Micah Miller. I saw this video, and it said John Paul Miller has plans of suing everyone and becoming a millionaire. What? Yeah. And then there's another video I saw where it was like somebody did an interview with some of the members or like a former member of the Solid Rock Church. And I was like, ooh, I want to hear what's going on there. A little insider scoop. And then I saw another video that was a deep dive into the whole thing. And this girl was like, John Paul Miller deserves to be in prison, is what she said. So I was like, well, let's give it a shot. Let's give it a listen, or a watch if you're on YouTube and Rumble. Make sure you guys click the links that are in the bios too on YouTube and go and support the people that we're listening to, the different podcasts and stuff, y'all. Go give them some subscribes. One of the last one we're gonna watch, I think she had like not even 100 subscribers on YouTube. So let's blow up these channels, y'all. Let's do it. Let's support the people that are talking about this case and bringing this information out to the public. All right, you guys ready? Who's ready? Thumbs up in the chat. TikTok, hit the tap the screen like crazy. 25,000 likes, y'all. Come on, let's get it. Hand hearts, subscribe. We got 12 more to get back to 200. And let's go. I'm going to shrink myself down. Here we go.
It looks like God might be using the women in John Paul Miller's life to expose his deviant behavior to the world. In the meantime, the troubled pastor of the church, called Solid Rock at Market Common in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, is bragging about his plans to bring lawsuits against everyone to help him become a millionaire. According to new court documents obtained...
You what?
What?
By Fitz News, that are nearly 70 pages long, John Paul's ex-wife, Alison Williams, is spilling the horrid details of her horrible marriage to the husband from hell, as well as what Micah Miller had to endure whilst married to him. Stay tuned for shocking accusations.
Damn, she said husband from hell.
Of John Paul, blaming his own abusive dad for his disgusting behavior towards women, and we'll take a
Oh, imagine that. Not taking accountability, saying it was something else.
Look at the new lady in John Paul's life, who recently was spotted at the beach with him. The first wife, Alison.
Who the heck is that? Y'all know who that is? I don't know who that girl is.
In Alison's new affidavit, she jumps right into the problems of her marriage to John Paul that came to a head in 2015, including...
Emily, if you come over to YouTube, just search The Mystery Project. It should be pinned on the screen up here somewhere. That's the name of the YouTube channel. That's my channel over on YouTube. We're live there also, and you can actually see the video on YouTube. Just search The Mystery Project. You'll find it.
His affair with Mica, who was their former nanny. Alison said John Paul also confessed that in addition to his affair with Mica, he had employed prostitutes and been sexually inappropriate with several underage female
Hey, gonna burn in hell for that.
You what?
How dare you?
Members of our church, she wrote. He blamed his immoral sexual behaviors on the sexual abuse he experienced.
Entertainment and educational purposes only. TikTok, YouTube, Rumble. Well, Rumble is fine. You can say whatever, but TikTok and YouTube, entertainment and educational purposes only. Right? Exactly. I hope that they do come forward.
For years by his father, Wayne Miller. The church requested that John Paul enroll in an extensive sexual addiction program, however. Despite him promising Alison that he would, to her knowledge, that never happened. According to the court case named Alison Miller versus John Paul Miller.
Yeah, he seems like the kind of guy to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll do whatever it takes. That's what he sounds like when he's crying on the grass. And then what do you know? Nothing ever happens, JP. Nothing.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
Uh-huh. Let's keep going. TikTok, hit the follow button if you're new here. Tap the screen like crazy. Thank you for the hand hearts. YouTube, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new. Same thing over on Rumble. Let's keep going.
Couple divorced on September 14th, 2016, after approximately 16 years of marriage. Alison and John Paul were married on February 26th.
16 years married to this dude?
Presumably in the year 2000 at Cathedral Baptist Church in Myrtle Beach. The Reverend R.W. Miller performed the ceremony with those mysterious initials standing for Reginald Wayne Miller. According to the scandalous
That's a creepy looking dude too.
legacy of Reverend Reginald Wayne Miller
And the shit we've seen about him, oh my God.
by Fitz News, John Paul's dad made advances towards young male and female students at Gloryland Bible College.
How dare you!
In 1993, the elder Miller attempted to leave these bad optics behind when his family, the church, and the college relocated to Myrtle Beach with a new and improved vision for his ministry. But those generational curses would follow the Miller men, even as John Paul launched Solid Rock Ministries in 2006, while R.W. Miller would go on to be arrested for exposing himself to an undercover officer and
Dear God.
end up losing both of his wives to divorce amid accusations of employing
Both of his wives?
What? What the fuck?
Pakistan students basically as slave labor. John Paul followed in his dad's troubling footsteps,
Beware
soon
of
losing both of his wives as well.
Thank you. Long time no see.
The first to divorce, and the second wife, Micah Miller, to a mysterious death that John Paul called self-induced less than 24 hours after it occurred. And now Alison Williams, formerly Alison Miller, filed an explosive verified complaint against her ex-husband, John Paul, a modification of custody, child support, and alimony, dated May 28, 2024 in Horry County. That's because Alison and John Paul have 4 children together, 2 of whom are still minor children, around 14 and 15 years of age.
Damn.
Alison says that John Paul has exhibited increasingly unstable behaviors, hasn't given the kids a safe and stable
Crazy as hell.
environment, and exposed the kids to domestic dispute incidents and discord, which have been traumatic to them. Alison wants sole and permanent custody of the minor children. The explosive part includes the section wherein Alison asserts that John Paul has failed to seek treatment for his deviant sexual addictions and behaviors, which he admittedly confessed to both Alison and former elders of his church. Alison believes that John Paul
That's the craziest part, is that he's said this stuff. He's said that he did this stuff to the elders in the church, and they're just like, well, go and take these classes. And then supposedly he didn't take the classes, and then they're just like, be around kids.
How dare you!
has continued to engage in deviant sexual behaviors and
Lord have mercy.
has exposed their minor children to an immoral and unsafe environment. Alison also believes John Paul exposed their minor children to his adulterous misconduct with his
Oh God.
paramour, a woman who is not named in this section of the court document. Alison says that prior to Micah's death, Mica confided in Alison, sharing intimate details regarding John Paul's bad behavior. Oddly enough, Mica, who was once John Paul and Alison's nanny and the girl that John Paul groomed from a young age, who eventually became his second wife, would end up being a safety net for the children during the times they visited their dad. However, due to Micah's recent tragic death, Mica can no longer be the safety net that Alison needs.
See, in that part, man, he's going around saying that Micah had all these issues, but yet there's people like his first wife that are saying, I only want the kids around when Micah's around. Does that sound like somebody that's like mentally unstable? That the mom actually feels safer when she's around versus when it's just him? I mean, come on. What the hell? By the way, TikTok, tap the screen like crazy. 25,000 likes. Let's get it. Hit the follow button if you're new here. My name's Patrick. If you enjoy true crime, I'm live every night, literally every night, We're also live on YouTube if you want to watch the video, because we actually are watching the video right now, also on a live stream there. So pop over, just search The Mystery Project. That should be pinned on the page on TikTok. Come search The Mystery Project, leave a like on the video, subscribe, do all the things. And thank you for the hearts and the hand hearts, y'all. I appreciate that. You know, the channel is not monetized other than the live gifts and this subscription. So if you want to support the show during the stream, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's keep going.
During their dad's visitation times with the kids. Allison is also requesting that the children not be exposed to their paternal grandfather, Wayne Miller, in any capacity permanently. Therefore, presiding family court judge Sally Wall ordered on May 29th, 2024, that Allison shall be granted custody of the minor children and suspended John Paul's visitation with his children until further order of the court. Nobody would believe me. Allison was told by cops the affair between John Paul and Mica tore our personal and church family apart. Allison wrote, "It caused an imaginable amount of pain," says the court document, I guess daring us to imagine the pain. "It caused discord in the lives of so many innocent people who truly trusted and believed in John Paul." I guess that's why we can't put too much trust and faith in any human being. Reminds me of when Jesus said, "And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father, which is in heaven." Allison said that at the time the church learned about John Paul's affair with Mica, the church was operating under the belief the old bylaws had been amended and that they were operating under new bylaws John Paul represented had been put in place, which required the formation of a board of council members to approve any major decisions regarding the church, including financial expenditures. When the council voted to have John Paul temporarily step down from the head pastor position so he could seek treatment for his self-reported sexual addictions and focus on his restoration, instead of following the direction of church leaders, John Paul held a meeting and told the council that the new bylaws were invalid and that according to the old bylaws, he had 100% decision-making authority. That was the first time members of our church had an opportunity to see John Paul for who he really was, Allison wrote, and they became gravely concerned about his integrity and the financial structure of the church. As a result, almost our entire congregation left the church, and John Paul began his quest to recruit new members and operate Solid Rock Ministries solely at his direction. What Allison is talking about is called a church split, when something divides a church. Some folks stay, some don't. It seems that the ill-gotten evil power John Paul had in that town, and even over that police force, outweighed seeking justice for his victims. He could have been arrested years ago, but his ex-wife's cries fell on deaf ears, and she was labeled by law enforcement as a scorned, unbelievable, bitter woman. Allison continued, writing after John Paul informed me that he had been inappropriate with minor female members of our church and disclosed to me the identity of these girls. I immediately contacted them to encourage them to come forward. Although they each shared with me detailed accounts of what John Paul did to them, they were too afraid of John Paul, I guess the document says there, to make a police report or testify in court. When I learned that they were too fearful to report John Paul, I went to the police department for the purpose of making a report and requesting an investigation. However, I was in essence told by police officials that nobody would believe me because John Paul was a well-known pastor and we were in the middle of a divorce.
You what?
That's insane. Oh yeah, no, they're not. We don't believe you. He's a well-known pastor. No way. Angie, thank you. Oh, you're coming in strong. Can you imagine hearing that? And you're like sitting here going, I know. These girls have told me. He told me.
Without the test.
And they don't. And they just say, no, nobody's going to believe it. We're listening to a couple of videos on YouTube. This one is the channel's called Plunder. And if you want to find it, y'all just search the Mystery Project on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, and you can watch the video along with us on YouTube. If you're just joining in on TikTok, click the link that's in the bio that says YouTube. You'll find the Mystery Project. Come on over, you can watch it, and then there's links in the bio on YouTube that take you straight to all of the videos that we watched during the live stream. So let's keep going.
Testimony of the victims, there was little else I could do to prove what John Paul had done and ensure he was held accountable. I began to realize the power John Paul seemed to have over leaders and officials in our community. Based upon having limited proof, there was no way for me to ensure John Paul was held accountable and prevented from continuing to victimize innocent people. Given the circumstances, I decided the best way for me to protect our children was to reach an agreement with John Paul that contained terms I believed would ensure their safety and encourage him to seek treatment. To that end, John Paul had periodic periods of visitation with our children. However, we agreed John Paul's visitation with our daughter, who is a subject to this action, would be restricted to solely daytime periods of visitation. The second wife, Mica. Alison began to paint a picture of John Paul's marriage to Mica. She wrote, "Following my divorce from John Paul, he married his then paramour, Micah Miller. Prior to my knowledge of John Paul's sexual relationship with Mica during our marriage, both she and her husband at the time, Jeremy, became very close to our family. Mica did not have a close relationship with her mother, and to some degree I took her under my wing as an older daughter. I taught her to drive, took her to get her driver's license, allowed her to care for our children, shared family meal times together in our home, provided her guidance and advice, and she began working in the church."
Can you imagine all that, y'all? Got her driver's license, did all that stuff, and the whole time this JP character is back there like planning all this crap and doing all this stuff, I guess allegedly. But that's crazy, y'all. Holy hell. Let's keep it up. By the way, y'all, my name's Patrick. Hit the follow button if you're new here. TikTok. Keep tapping the screen. We just hit 25,000 likes. Let's go for 50,000. YouTube, if you're new, subscribe. Hit the thumbs up button. I appreciate you guys being here. Let's keep it going.
Despite the initial destruction caused by John Paul's infidelity for several years, there was a part of me that was relieved to know Mica would be present in the home when John Paul had periods of visitation with our children, and I viewed her as a safety net for my children. Although our children continued to struggle with the anger and disappointment they felt toward their father, often refusing to share visitation periods with him, for a couple of years, things appeared to be not quite as tumultuous.
Kiss your bride.
There were probably many nights that Mica had wished she had remained married to Jeremy and never fell for the demonic advances of John Paul, the so-called man of God who officiated their wedding. Instead, after stealing Mica away from her husband, John Paul turned into a downward sliding deviant who now wants to be a millionaire via lawsuits. In her affidavit, Alison would go on to describe how the marriage between John Paul and Mica began to go downhill about 4 or 5 years after they married in 2017, and how that marital discord severely impacted their blended family. She wrote, "In 2021 to 2022, things gradually began to change to the detriment of our children and have escalated to the severity of where things are today. John Paul and Mica began having severe marital difficulties, and our children were placed directly in the middle of this discord. John Paul
That's terrible.
would preach
Absolutely terrible.
sermons on the Sundays our children were with him and present in the congregation, disparaging Mica and indicating she had mental health issues, and eventually putting her in a mental hospital. The children were subjected to John Paul calling Mica crazy one day, and then her being
Holy hell.
back in the home at their next visit with their father, assuring
Ruth,
them she
thank you.
was fine. They never
No,
knew
thank
what to
you.
expect, and the intense unpredictability and marital discord between John Paul and Micah negatively impacted them all. On one
Well, yeah.
occasion, while picking up our daughter, I observed holes in their walls, hinges off the doors, and pieces of paper taped to the wall with negative affirmations about Micah. John Paul told me and our children that Micah was delusional and speaking different languages and seeing things that were not there. John Paul agreed it was not safe for our children to be in his home, and for health struggles, the thought of John Paul having access to guns in his home terrified me for the safety of our children. It was about this time John Paul began declining to pick up our children for visitation, informing me that his mental health was not well enough for him to share time with them. One evening, John Paul informed me that Micah had a breakdown and was on her way to my house, and requested me to hold her when she arrived because he had the police coming. It was my understanding that Micah was trying
Dear Lord.
to get away from John Paul because he was trying to have her committed again. Micah began calling me for advice on how to free herself from John Paul and for guidance as to counselors and
Tina, right?
people to assist her. I prayed with Micah and did all I could to provide her with sound advice and guidance. Micah shared information with me about the things my children were exposed to while in the care of John Paul, and warned me that my children were in danger while in his care. I have several recordings and text messages that verify this information. I was married to John Paul for 16 years. Although my story and what I lived through with John Paul is different in some ways, many of the details shared with me by Micah are so similar to my own experiences with John Paul that I know she was being truthful. Based upon information and belief, John Paul's mental health and deviant
I wonder if anything ever happened. Like, I wonder if Allison is going to come out and like talk about if anything weird ever happened where she felt like she might have been no longer in the land of the living, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder.
Sexual addictions have only worsened since the time we were married, and I do not believe our children are safe in his care. Since Micah's death, I have requested that John Paul not see our children. Initially, I was okay with phone calls and text messages. However, when recently texting with them, John Paul has inappropriately discussed the current state of events with them, among other things, sharing his plans of suing everyone and being a millionaire.
What? What the fuck?
There it is. So now we all know what was behind that stupid blanket cease and desist letter that John Paul's attorney sent to the entire world. Instead of simply grieving the tragic death of Micah and attempting to improve his fractured relationship with his children and getting serious help to exorcise his own demons, John Paul is thinking of launching frivolous lawsuits in order to grift his next millions. I guess John Paul thinks he needs a lot of money to entertain the new potential next wives in his life. But is the Lord telling John Paul enough is enough? Will the feds be able to arrest John Paul for anything? And Allison is clear in that she's not punishing John Paul and trying to keep his kids away from him forever, just only until he seriously seeks help to change his dangerous behavior. Check the links below to Fitz News to find the PDFs that contain much more information from Allison, who came to the court with all the receipts of stuff she's been screaming from the hilltops for years. Allison has evidence of a flash drive containing videos of John Paul's minor child fighting against going to visit him, and a voicemail from Micah seeking help as evidence of severe emotional turmoil with John Paul. Even Micah's mother texted Allison seeking help. It was a Saturday at 3 a.m. when Micah's mother wrote, "Allie, I'm begging you as one mother to another. Please talk to me. I love you. I pray for you often. Please call me. Please. I promise that no one will know we spoke. I'm concerned for the safety of my daughter. And then 29 minutes later, Micah's mom
Oh man.
wrote, I'm asking, begging you, not to let JP know I've reached out to you. He will just further isolate Micah from us. Please. There are group text messages between Micah, Alison, and John Paul,
That is absolutely terrible.
trying to get Alison to break her no overnight provision with their daughter and confiding the reason for restraint. So did John Paul do something to his own daughter for Alison to implement this policy? Either way, I applaud Alison for
Damn.
protecting her children. Alison texted John Paul, did you tell our daughter she can go on trips with you when she turns 13? John Paul texted back,
Whoa.
what we hope for and what we pray for is that there will be a heart change, seeing as I have never nor will ever
Damn, Ruth, thank you.
hurt one of my kids or put them in any situation that would hurt them. You can continue to say no, and you can continue to think the way you do, but we can continue to pray and hope. We didn't ask you, so there's no need to discuss it. But one day, if or when we do, we would love to discuss it. Alison did not fall for his gaslighting and Christianese talk about a heart change. Instead, Alison replied, hey, when you talk about it with our daughter, it absolutely opens the discussion up for all of us. She can't have normal privileges because you have committed terrible crimes of sexually molesting underage children.
Dear God, entertainment and educational purposes only, TikTok overlords. TikTok hears some crazy, they hear stuff like that and they go absolutely haywire. YouTube, same thing, entertainment, educational purposes only. But I mean, this is the stuff that JP Miller's first wife is saying. Heather, thank you for joining the YouTube channel. There you go. Thank you. Are you a misdemeanor? That there's misdemeanors and all kinds of stuff over there. Thank you for that. So very sweet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. TikTok, hit the follow button too. I see about 500 people watching. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, I'm live every single night. Come on in, hit the follow button, tap the screen like crazy too. Let's get 50,000 likes. Thanks for all the little hand heart things and everything, y'all. This channel is not monetized other than the live gifts and the subscription. So thanks for the love. If you want to support the show during the stream, I appreciate it. Let's keep going.
Praying for my heart to change.
Oh, and come over to YouTube if you want to watch the video with us. The Mystery Project on YouTube. Just search the Mystery Project on YouTube. You can find it. And you can watch, like actually see the videos with us. Jolene, thank you. So sweet.
Is absolute gaslighting. When you bring this topic up, or if the children ask, I tell them the truth. I will not cover up and lie. I will continue to tell her the truth in an age-appropriate way. That's nothing a mother wants to discuss, but when asked to, I tell the truth. Sadly, this is reality, and we face it and deal with it. If you don't want this discussed with our daughter, then you shouldn't bring it up, or if she asked and is sad she misses out on vacations and such, maybe you should take ownership and responsibility for your actions, present or past, and own it. Say it's your fault and move forward. If you need or might want to discuss this more, let's sit down and talk about it. John Paul replied with a defensive list. 1. This has nothing to do with my own child. 2. The fact that our daughter is with me all the time from morning until night. There's no difference between night to morning. She is with her dad. The time of day has no bearing. Funny
how... You are crazy as hell, dude. You never heard the Under the Cover of Night? And that poor girl. That poor little girl.
How John Paul spelled bearing wrong and instead used the spelling that means to uncover a part of the body or other thing and expose it to view. But you can do as you want. It is evil to
that is weird.
Remotely make a child think that their parent would ever in a million years hurt them. Alison replied, I don't.
But you... supposedly she's saying that you already hurt kids whose parents don't want you doing that kind of shit to them. So what the hell are you talking about? That's the craziest shit to be. Kimberly, thank you. Sharon, thank you.
I tell her the truth why you legally have lost privileges. John Paul wrote back, the truth isn't that I lost the privilege because of legal mistakes. I don't have the privilege because I signed a paper that you had me sign, but you allowed redacted to stay the night for a while. And you can always allow it if you want to, because there's no difference in her with me in the day. Afternoon, night, morning, etc. But again, it's your decision per legal papers. Alison wrote, we can sit down and discuss this more in person. I can show why legal papers were signed. It was to avoid presenting affidavits from the minors you've molested. John Paul wrote, okay, thank you. I love Alison, by the way. She's stating facts, avoiding his BS. It appears Micah then chimed in. If it was really her and wrote, put simply, your son started choosing where he wanted to go at 13, so we assumed your daughter would have that choice as well. Didn't think the gender was the issue, since we get her on a regular basis with no fear of anything happening to her. Didn't mean to make a big fuss and bring up 20-year-old issues. Alison snapped back. Who says there is no fear? This is not a 20-year-old issue. Do you think those victims of his would say it's a 20-year-old issue? Also, John Paul still displays continued poor character and puts our children in harmful situations. Paying someone to take me to lunch to ask me if he leaves you and the church, would I ever remarry him, and being unfaithful to you and putting my child up to be a middleman is a horrible situation to put my child in. Getting a job for someone at a location where their boss was one of his mistresses is a horrible situation to put my children in, especially since she had told a teenage coworker she slept with her pastor before her wedding, and those kids could have told my children, putting my children in harmful situations. Also, having someone around some children who was a former inappropriate relationship is also a horrible situation to put my children in. It is selfish and harmful and has no consideration on how it could affect my children and all they have already been put through by him, and honestly, you too. He has shown his interest and scheme at hand are most important by doing those things. This continued lack of character is harmful for all involved, and I will not hide it or pretend all is well when a finger gets pointed at me as though this is a possible misunderstanding or overreaction. I am peaceable but will not tolerate any blame, shifting and gaslighting, intentional or unintentional.
Jamie, thank you.
John Paul seemed to just write, okay, thanks again. But Micah wrote, no one is pointing the finger at you, saying John Paul's actions are your fault. However, what you heard about someone is not true. I've done my due diligence. As far as blank, I am aware of her transgressions, kiss, pics, and John Paul's lack of guts to get
Oh my God. Angie, thank you so much. You were so sweet.
rid of her sooner. I hope this won't affect your opinion of her children.
Kathy,
Boy, that text string was a doozy. I don't know all the women and victims they are speaking of, and I wonder what year these texts took place. I also wonder if it's Micah really defending John Paul that much.
Or if it's him taking control of her phone and taking control of all that stuff like they said.
Or if he took Micah's phone and wrote those responses himself.
That part.
Alison even has text messages that purport to have come from the phones of the minor children to Micah, but it was really
Whoa.
John Paul pretending to be his own kids, texting Micah, trying to get her to come home. It's very sad to see John Paul writing to Micah under the guise of a kid, claiming in one message string, hey, it's me. When are you coming?
That is crazy manipulative.
Home. Dad just cries and prays real loud. Micah wrote back, I wish I could come home. John Paul wrote, Dad says you can, anytime. Micah wrote, he says different things to me. I miss you guys very much. I cry too. John Paul wrote, he said he's sorry and it's your birthday. Micah wrote, yep, I'm 30. Just got my toes done at Daisy. Life is going to move on, but it will be really weird for a bit. This must have been March 7th, 2024. John Paul replied, "So, you're not coming home ever. What can I tell Dad to do so you can come home? I prayed with Dad for you to come home." Micah wrote, "Thank you for your prayers. Inside, I know he knows what's right, but..."
And the whole time she's talking to him. He just took over the kid's iPad or whatever. Oh, you gonna burn in hell for that too. Oh, you gonna burn in hell for that. Man. Why? Like, what's the whole point? Why? Hope it was worth it, JP. That is crazy.
We have to make choices that line up with that. You're really smart and kind and pretty like your mom. I'll miss you." John Paul wrote, "Mom says boys are dumb, but I know Dad loves you a lot. I've never seen him cry so much. He's crying so loud right now. Can you talk to him, please? I promise he loves you. He has your pictures all over the house. He won't do anything with us. He just keeps crying." Micah wrote,
What? What the fuck?
You sick son of a... Should I hit him with it, y'all? What is the voice of this narrator, right? Sometimes, yeah, we watch all kinds of different random videos, so I think this one is Plunder. That's her name.
"Last time I tried to come home and be..."
I should hit him with it, y'all? Okay, after the next thing that he says, pretending to be the kids, I'll hit him with it. I got it queued up, ready to go, y'all.
"Peaceful. He called the cops and said I was trying to break in after he was the one that asked me to come. My hands are tied. He would not even let me in." After more begging from John Paul, Micah explained, "He has already filed the paperwork. He is leaving me and trying to make it seem like I left him. I don't think it's healthy for you to get involved." Alison also has messages from John Paul saying Micah moved out so she can hang with her sisters. Other messages say, "Micah is officially gone from this house and Solid Rock forever, and divorce agreement is in effect. Please just keep this between us right now. It's very hard on me, and I don't want added stress. I'm just telling you, 'cause it's you." Another text from JP says, "By the way, the hole in the bedroom door was Micah, and I have a video of her doing it. So don't worry, I'm not an angry person." Smiley face. Next.
I'm gonna hit him with it, y'all. I'm gonna hit him with it.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
JP. You are a sick son bitch, aren't you? I mean, we knew that. We all kind of knew that. We had our little inklings. We had our little feelings. But now that more and more is coming to light, we get to see just how unbelievably disgusting you truly are. Ugh. YouTube, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button real quick. TikTok, hit the follow button if you're new here. Tap the screen too. Everybody tap the screen real quick. Let's get 50,000 likes. And y'all, thank you for the little hand hearts. We got 4 of those left. Thank you for that. Very much appreciated. You guys don't have to do that, but I appreciate the love and the support during the live streams. Cassie, thank you. Just like that. Thank you so much. All right, let's keep going because this guy's gonna piss me off.
John Paul sent Alison a photo of his son's mugshot after Logan Ryan Hardy, JP's son from his first relationship, appeared on WDPE in an article titled, "Conway Man Accused of Hitting Women Overhead with Glass Bottle." One last ominous message listed in the PDF is dated March 11th, and it reads, "Hey Allie, it's Micah. I need to talk to you ASAP for the safety of your kids. Please call me. You almost free?" Micah included a screenshot of the text message exchange of JP pretending to be his child.
That's crazy.
Alison writes about the other woman, Susie Skinner. Susie is a woman who claimed to be just friends with John Paul. She said that he had no one to go out.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
with to eat dinner after Micah's death, so she went with him. However, JP's ex-wife tells a different, more salacious and sinister story. On page 6 of the affidavit of Alison
Kylie, we sure do.
Williams, in a document linked to below, Alison chimes in on Susie Skinner. She wrote, John Paul began spending time with his now paramour, Susie, who was the mother of one of the boys that plays on our son's soccer team. John Paul began using our son to facilitate times he could spend with Susie, which our children were well aware of. Their friends talked about it, and it caused them a tremendous amount of embarrassment. When I learned John Paul was exposing our children to yet another one of his adulterous affairs, I confronted John Paul and Susie and told them not to let it happen again. John Paul called me the day Susie's husband died in an alleged drowning accident, extremely upset, and asking me to pray, which was incredibly bizarre. Just 2 weeks prior to this incident, Susie's husband had confronted John Paul and asked him to leave his wife and children alone. It is chilling to know that the spouses of both Susie and John Paul are now dead from tragic events. It was around this time John Paul's mental health seemed
That's pretty crazy.
to be really spiraling out of control, and he began acting even more bizarre. He informed me that he was getting into buying guns and shooting and had purchased a gun safe for his home. As a convicted felon, he is not allowed to have
Yep, can't do that, bro.
weapons. However, he managed to get a police chief from the church to assist with expunging his record. Further, he was given a special police badge that says pastor to utilize if he ever gets pulled over, so they will let him go.
What? What the fuck?
What?
The other new woman.
Oh man, have y'all seen this? There's a new, like Susie is out with the old, in with the new. There's a new one. Supposedly, if you guys have not seen this, TikTok, hit the follow button, tap the screen like crazy. Two more hand hearts, but come over to the YouTube channel right now because we're about to see the other new woman. Y'all just search The Mystery Project on YouTube. We're live right there as well. Shout out to YouTube. If you are new to the YouTube channel right now, y'all hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Do we have 100 likes? Actually, I think we have 100 likes, don't we? 84 likes, y'all. Everybody watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button real quick. We can get 200 likes if everybody does it right now. Here's the other new woman.
Now, new photos of John Paul at the beach with another woman are going viral. Internet sleuths pretty quickly found out her name, and it appears to be a woman who has attended Solid Rock Church in the past. Of course, it doesn't
Oh, snap. Spiritual Diamond, thank you.
mean that she's the new lady love in John Paul's life. However, you can expect
No, maybe they're just hanging out and having dinner like the Susie lady. Maybe. Or maybe not.
a man like him to not stay single very long, especially since he's been accused of not being able to have self-control, nor stay faithful very often, even when married to very lovely ladies. And any woman who John Paul dates going forward.
Oh no, is that her right there? Right next to Mica? Is that her? That's her. It is. And that's Mica right there in the middle, isn't it? Oh, Lord.
Will likely continue to get just as much attention as he's getting, with the internet on fire, waiting and hoping and praying for Mica to get whatever justice she is due for putting up with his ill treatment of her for so many years. This is a major fork in the road for the Solid Rock Church, whose administrators still proclaim that services are on Sundays at 10 a.m. Reportedly, their attendance is way down.
No shit. Really? I would have never guessed that.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Can't believe it. Marcia, the name of the YouTube channel is The Mystery Project. It should be pinned on the page up around here somewhere. the Mystery Project on YouTube. Y'all come on over.
That means their tithes
A bunch of y'all did because we got over 300 people watching now. Y'all hit the thumbs up button. We got 116 now. Let's get 200 likes. Everybody watching on YouTube, hit the like button.
and offerings are likely way down too. What will John Paul do?
Yeah.
Will he try to bounce back or start over? Or has the sad death of Mica brought so much attention to all this evil that has been under wraps for years that John Paul's last hope
Betsy, right?
is to fall on the mercy of our Maker? Will John Paul ever repent and change? Or will he try to gaslight God? Perhaps John Paul should drop the lawsuit threats and dreams of being a millionaire and instead study the words of Malachi 2.
Damn.
We
All right, let's keep it going, y'all. This is an interview that was done with one of the former members. So they were just saying that the attendance is down, you know, all that stuff is down. Let's see. Let's go.
spoke to Alicia Young a couple weeks ago, former member of Solid Rock at Market Common, which was Micah Miller's former church. And we wanted to keep talking because there's just so much beneath the surface of what's going on at Solid Rock that should be discussed. And I think it's like Robbie
Right.
Harvey says, that I totally agree with. Whether Micah Miller pulled the trigger or somebody else did, we need to focus on why the trigger was pulled. And I think it was pulled because Micah Miller was in a cult. She was trapped in a cult and she was trying to get out. That's what I think. But this time we're going to talk about cult love bombing because it's one of the first things you can check when trying a new church or really any group. So what was your experience at Solid Rock as far as love bombing goes? Is that something you noticed happening there or something you experienced when you and your husband first started going?
I did, because in the beginning it was, they were so excited to have us, and because John Paul had expressed that with my husband, he was so excited to have him. He had been praying for somebody like him, and that he just really wanted them to be best friends, and that was the goal, was we're going to be best friends. But especially with me, it was, oh, we're so excited to have you. We can't wait to get you plugged in. And then I never got plugged in anywhere. And it was just kind of saying things to my face, basically gaslighting me also of, there's certain things, certain steps that we have to do to get you from point A to point B.
Dana, right? She said solid crock. I see what you did there.
And I was going through these steps, and it just felt like I was jumping through never ending hoops because it was not getting me anywhere.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've experienced the same thing in one-on-one relationships that turned out to be, I would say, abusive. The whole we're going to be best friends thing, I've heard that multiple times from different people, and it's a huge red flag for me. I think it's a love bombing tactic. Oh, we're just going to be best friends. And I've been waiting for someone like you. It's also interesting how after they love bombed you guys, you really felt like they had discarded you in a way, like they were no longer interested in having you there because they made it so difficult for you and gave you all these hoops to jump through. I've heard of that happening with other people in other churches too. Did that happen pretty quickly, like immediately after they got you in? Or did it take some time for that, I guess, the going full circle on you?
I would say probably at least 2 to 3 months in, because in the beginning I hadn't seen any red flags. My eyes weren't open quite yet when we first got there. But quickly after, at least 2 to 3 months in, is when I started to really feel like, okay, they don't want me. They don't want anything to do with me. They just want my husband. And
damn,
especially with the way I was treated, because my husband could walk hand in hand down the church hallway and they would greet him. They would be like, "Oh, hey, Ken, how's it going?" good morning, things like that. I'm standing right next to him and never would anyone acknowledge me. And I would look at him and I'm like, can you see me? Like, am I visible? And he would laugh, he would kind of laugh, and I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm being treated like I'm absolutely invisible. And one particular thing that happened, and this was like that November of 2019. So there were small groups, and we were a part of this one small group. And after your, I think it was like 6 to 7 weeks, something like that, of a small group. And then after the small groups were done, they would hold a dinner for those small groups, and the dinner would be, led by the facilitators of the small groups. And so we were there, and the church, was already basically kind of decorated for Christmas time. And so we were in the fellowship hall, and there was a Christmas tree in the fellowship hall, and it had pictures of everybody in the church. So I was looking at the tree, and it had pictures of everybody in the church on it, everybody except for me. And
Wow.
I saw at least 3 different pictures
Jeez.
of my husband, but it wasn't just him by himself. Like, there was one picture of him and a friend that we used to be friends with. And I knew for a fact that someone had to go on my husband's Facebook to get that picture. And I'm like, if they could get a picture like that, why couldn't they get one of me? And I
Right.
looked through this tree so many times. I'm like, maybe I just missed it. Maybe I overlooked it. Surely this is not the case. And I looked through that tree several different times on different days that I was at the church. And absolutely, there was not one photo of me on that tree, which showed me John Paul truly did not want me to be seen in that church.
So weird.
That's unbelievable. So, in the beginning, when he was love bombing, was it mainly just directed at your husband? Did you feel that love bombing at all, or was it just towards him and you were kind of just there for the ride, if so to speak?
I felt it was kind of a little bit of both, because with me, they're like, oh, we can get you plugged in here and there. Again, with we're so glad that you're here, and we can't wait to get to know you and everything. But John Paul never got to know me
Mm,
ever. So basically the majority of it was directed to my husband, and I was kind of there for the ride. And once I started noticing things, I'm just like, you have to be kidding me, because even 6 months in, a lady thought I was new, and there were other people who thought I was new. And that's when I was really getting so frustrated, because I'm like, I'm not new. I've been here the entire time. But they were so blinded by things. And I'm sure that there was things that they were told, because of just the way they acted, because at least just a handful of people only knew my name in the church, and everyone else just
Hey, y'all, the lady speaking is a former member of the church, and she's saying that when her and her husband joined, the husband, everybody was like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" and made him feel really at home. And she said they kind of did for her in the very, very beginning, but then it was like she didn't exist. Like, nobody would talk to her, nobody did anything. They would put pictures up of people, but never her. And so she's just kind of coming out and saying all that.
directed their comments or whatever towards my husband, and I just basically felt non-existent.
wow. And that was pretty immediate for you. But
Yes.
for your husband, so did it take him a little bit longer than you to sort of see the problems at Solid Rock because they did so much more love bombing directed at him?
It did, and it was frustrating for me, because I'm like, are you not seeing the same things that I am? But also, my husband's like, well, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt, and I understand that. But honestly, I felt
Whoa.
we were past that point. of giving
Mhm.
them the benefit of the doubt. Like in the beginning, I totally get that, because I go into situations with an open mind, but I'm also very, very aware of things, too. My discernment is pretty strong. That's one thing that I'm very thankful that God has given me a very strong discernment. So my husband and I, we did.
Sweet Sugar Biscuit, thank you for joining. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
I'll be honest, we did fight a lot during that period because of the church and how strongly they were trying to divide us the entire
Damn.
time.
That's interesting. So they love bombed your husband, and he probably felt obligated to stick up for them because of how nice they were to him. And
Yes,
obviously it was causing problems. And I see cult love bombing as false empathy and fake affection and, flattery, over the top compliments that you're bombarded with when a cult is trying to recruit you into their cause. But one of the ways that I can
Carol, thank you.
tell when it's love bombing and not like authentic is if there's strings attached and if it's not genuine. And with you, obviously it wasn't genuine at all because they said all these nice things and then immediately you felt like they're just full of it because they're not following through with anything they said they wanted. But
exactly.
with your husband, it seemed like they were more invested in putting on this love bombing a little bit longer to get, at least, if not to keep him there longer or to keep him there at all, to divide you two and to get him on their side.
For sure. So, with my husband, they they basically put him on a pedestal in a way, and I was kind of down at the bottom. Basically with my husband, they were interested in his giftings, because he is very talented and he had at least 15, almost like 20 years of worship leading experience. So they saw him, especially John Paul saw him as a shiny new toy, and he was already polished and ready to go out of the box, because that's what John Paul wanted, was
Mm,
these musicians that were polished and ready to go, because it was all about the show. And
right.
so even, John Paul had my husband even write a few of the parodies and stuff. And John Paul actually got jealous over one of the parodies that my husband wrote because of how well received it was. Like everybody was like, "Oh my goodness, that was so good." And they just kept complimenting him on it. And John Paul got really, really jealous, and we saw it that day. Like he couldn't stand it that someone else was getting attention because he usually, I do believe, wrote the parodies and stuff. And then when my husband started writing some, that kind of quickly ended because of John Paul's jealousy.
So you think the jealousy was kind of the beginning of the end of the love bombing? As soon as he saw, oh, this shiny new toy that I wanted as a sort of ornament for my empire is outshining me.
Yes.
And he must not have seen
Wow. Grow up, dude.
you as some kind of benefit to the ministry. Like you weren't coming in with something that he wanted to use.
Nope. Even though I have different giftings and talents of my own, John Paul absolutely wanted nothing to do with it, because every time I would ask my husband, because my husband would have conversations with John Paul on my behalf, because John Paul would never sit down with me and talk to me about these things. He never would. He always wanted my husband to say things for him. So, when my husband would ask him like, "Hey, why is she not able to do this or this? Like she's wanting to, like she's wanting to serve in these areas." And John Paul every time would be, "Well, she has issues that she has to work on first, and she's got to do this or this or this first."
What? Crazy as hell. Y'all, TikTok, by the way, hit the follow button if you're new here. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, we're live every single night. YouTube, there's a bunch of y'all in here too. Make sure you subscribe. Everybody hit the thumbs up button. We're trying to get 200 likes on YouTube. We're at 155. So, and we got 333 people watching. Right now we're listening to a former member of the church talk about what it was like being there and dealing with JP. So that's who's talking right now. Let's keep going.
And so when my husband would relay that to me, I would get so frustrated because it was just never ending hoops. I'm like, I'm doing this and this and this, and it doesn't matter. And to say that I was the one who had issues was just kind of like a slap in the face because
was ever just leaning out of her truck crying in her yard going me 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 me.
anything else
Y'all seen that video? Dear God.
behind that curtain. So he's keeping me.
Laura, I dare you to subscribe. Go for it. I'm test driving you, Patrick.
From doing anything.
Hey, I'm live every night. So if you guys like this kind of content, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, do all the things. Because I'm live every single night, y'all.
Situation there, because a lot of churches that I go to, I mean, I see it as love bombing when you've got the sign holders outside that say, welcome home. And we're so glad you made it. And you look amazing today. So what's the greeting situation at Solid Rock, or at least when you were there?
When I was there, they didn't really have parking attendants at the time. They did have security.
Parking attendants? Churches have valet?
You what? What? What the fuck?
That is crazy as hell.
They did have door greeters and stuff because you could enter the church through two different ways. You could go through the back, that will take you through the fellowship hall and everything leading to the sanctuary, or the front door that just leads you directly into the sanctuary. Because the back door eventually it gets.
Y'all, either times have drastically changed, which they have, but or like when I was growing up, my parents must have took me to some broke ass churches. Can you valet? Jesus doesn't want you to park your car. Your ticket's $7.37. Do you tip the valet at a church, or does that just go straight into the collection box? What's it called? Collection pan.
It's locked, and so once.
Or is it like the people who are given the most, they get their cars parked?
Service starts.
That's crazy as hell.
You can't go in through that door. You have to go through the front.
Collection plate. That's it, Betsy. Thank you.
Greeting and everything. There were people, who would say,
oh yeah, you tip Jesus. That's what I'm thinking of. That's crazy to me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here, which is normal for every church. But the thing, with us, it was they greeted my husband. They might have said hi to me. There were some people that are like, oh my gosh, you look so pretty today. And I'm thinking, okay. Because it was weird in how it was done. Because I do remember the one time, it was when I was really starting to lose weight, and I felt comfortable with myself, and I had this really cute black dress on, did my hair, had really cute boots on with it. And even John Paul that day, he looked at me and he's like, wow, you look very pretty today, which he would never give me compliments. Never. And that one morning he did. And I'm like, I honestly, I really didn't know what to think about it because he never gave me compliments. And then that one Sunday, oh, you look really pretty today. Okay, thank you.
Well, he seems like someone who's really interested in appearances, right? So
yes.
So you get rewarded for looking good.
Yeah, because I was starting to lose weight and I was feeling a little bit more confident in myself. And I think he saw that. Yeah, because in the beginning when we went there, I was heavy and I felt kind of insecure with myself because I didn't look like what they wanted.
Right. And he always talked about how he wanted, I don't remember the context of the sermon where he said this, but he talks about having a hot wife
Hmm.
and wanting to help others get a hot wife who loves Jesus or something. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I found that like
You what?
insane. But very clearly from that, it's obviously really important to John Paul that women look a certain way. And maybe in a way, his complete lack of attention towards you or his behavior towards you was because, you didn't live up to what he wanted you to look like on the outside. And then once he saw that you lost weight and were putting more effort into your appearance because you felt better about yourself, he wanted to compliment you for that, as a manipulation. That's kind of how I see it anyway. It's like, okay, she's doing what I think is good. She looks good, so I'm going to be nice to her. It's really childish, but that's how wolves work, I think, is they care about the appearances. And if you're willing to care about appearances too, then they'll be nice to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. He even mentioned one time, when I had to be a part of that little hype choir before I was allowed to do anything else. And John Paul would even mention to my husband, why isn't she smiling enough? She's not smiling enough. Like he literally wanted a
Mm,
smile
yeah.
plastered on my face the whole time. And I'm like, I'm not that type of person that just smiles all the time. Even if I am like happy, it's my face. Like I don't have a smile constantly on it, And so there were times where I knew, like John Paul would literally watch me while I was up there in this stupid choir. Um, he he would literally watch me, and so there were some Sundays that I was very aware that he was watching me, and so I myself would make sure I was doing the right things, that I had a smile on my face, because then the Sundays I
Mm,
How dare you?
did have a smile on my face the whole time, John Paul would be like, "Oh, you did so good up there. Like you were smiling." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm doing what you want me to do."
right. And another part of the whole love bombing thing with you and your husband is the offer of jobs and positions and
This dude, were you running a church or like a damn Abercrombie store? Jesus Christ. Remember that? People were just like, hey, spray you with all the damn cologne and shit constantly. What are you doing? This is crazy as hell.
platform through the church to
By the way, TikTok, hit the follow button if you're new here. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, I'm live every single night. Hit the follow button. Everybody tap the screen too. Let's get 75,000 likes. Come over to YouTube if you want to watch the videos with us. Search The Mystery Project. You can actually come over and see the video that we're watching. I think there's another one after this one. Yeah, so yeah, guys, come on over, subscribe to the channel. Everybody watching on YouTube, do me a favor too. Make sure you hit the little thumbs up button so that we can get 200 likes. We're close. We're at 167 likes. So YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. I love you guys. TikTok, thanks for all the little gifts and stuff. I appreciate that. You don't have to do it, but it is appreciated. Thank you for the little high bears. That's what we're trying to do right now. Here we go. Let's continue on.
do what you want to do. I've seen that with a lot of other churches and ministries. They offer you all these things. We'll give you your own podcast. You can be a leader on the worship team. You can have a job in this other business owned by the pastor, which we know was a situation for you guys with the piano bar. And it
Mhm.
seems great when you don't know anything
Chris
about
Diamond, thank you. Marley, thank you.
the organization or the people. Like, wow, they're being so generous. But then you feel trapped and stuck there when you're faced with their abusive or inappropriate behavior and you are uncomfortable and you want to leave. But from what I know about your experience at Solid Rock, that's pretty much what happened to you and your husband is you started seeing these things, but
Gracie,
then,
thank you.
your husband really felt hesitant because they were so love bomby towards him.
They were, and we had to be extra careful because of where my husband was working at the time and who his boss was, since his boss was basically John Paul's best friend. And So there were certain things, even though when my husband finally was starting to see things and we didn't agree, we had to be so careful of what we said, or even when we left the church, we
Whoa.
had to leave quietly because of how the church and the bar were so intertwined with each other. And my husband at the time, he didn't want to risk losing his job and, essentially not having somewhere to work and everything.
That is crazy.
So it was a very, very tricky situation for us when we were there, and to not rock that boat. And it sucked for me because I'm thinking, no, I want to say something. I want to expose this for what it is because other people need to know. And I
Right.
had to keep quiet at the time.
Yeah, and I noticed with some of the screenshots that have surfaced of texts from JP to Micah that he did a lot of love bombing with her too, showering her with gifts and, talking about the new plane, and going from calling her horrible names and making all sorts of threats and ultimatums in their relationship to flattering her and offering her the world if she'd just come back to him. Did you observe that personally? Were you aware that that was going on between them as a married couple?
I did not, because he was he was usually always very complimentary of Micah, always, giving her some sort of compliment all the time, either while he was in the pulpit or at dinner and everything. Overly at times complimentary of his wife, and not to say that can be a bad thing, but knowing who John Paul is and now seeing it is for what it is, it was definitely gaslighting.
Yeah, the ulterior motive behind it.
And love bombing, and or all the time, look at my wife. Like, it was always a look at my wife, look how hot she is. And I'm just like, as a pastor, yes, you need to love your wife as, God loves the church, but also when a pastor is standing in the pulpit and he's saying how hot his wife is, that's fleshly. And why on earth would you want other men to look at your wife in that way?
Right? Yeah. That's interesting, though, that you mentioned how he would compliment her so much when, a lot of what's being said right now about him is that he would do a lot of bashing, and he did do this. He did a lot of bashing at the pulpit of her and others. So it's like he builds you up, love bombs, and then tears you down again if you don't, I guess, obey his standard.
Yes, because even when we left, or actually, it wasn't even when we left.
He's crazy as hell.
There was the meeting that we had and everything, and immediately it was either after the meeting we had or the email that my husband sent to John Paul expressing the concerns, especially with how I was being treated. And my husband's boss was even like, why don't you just apologize, and make this, right or whatever. And my husband's like, no, these things need to be talked about. This needs to be discussed. And he just kept saying, just, just apologize, talk it out or whatever. And that's how much that they wanted him to stay in the church. And, even the question of, oh, you're going to fall on the sword for your wife. And my husband's like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
How dare you?
Bruh.
These people are crazy as hell.
Absolutely. That's my wife. And
what's scary, y'all, is they're everywhere. You think this is the only one? You think this is the only group of crazy people? Oh my God. TikTok, hit the follow button if you're new here. Tap the screen like crazy. My name's Patrick. YouTube, same thing. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up button. We got almost 200 likes on YouTube. Thank you, guys. Damn. Let's keep it going.
It was obvious that neither one of them would ever choose their wife.
If you're just tuning in, this is one of the former members of the Solid Rock Church. So she's talking about JP and all the crazy stuff that was going on there.
over something else.
Wow. And that's interesting that they consider just having a conversation and confronting, inappropriate
Linda, thank you.
behavior or rudeness or mistreatment as falling on the sword. Like you can't even have a disagreement. You must. But the other thing is he expected your husband to apologize and you guys to apologize. But for what? What if I don't understand what they thought you needed to apologize for?
Right.
And they thought that we were in the wrong. And because there was even an email sent to
Dear God, you know what this reminds me of? It's like shun the non-believer, like the Charlie the unicorn shit. Remember that? Shun the non-believer.
to someone at the church that my husband was friends with. It was actually
Mimi, thank you.
Micah's brother. That
Laura, thank you for the 10 Ron. Very sweet. Justice for Micah. Absolutely. Sub will follow. Thank you. You're very sweet.
my husband and him were pretty close. And John Paul sent him an email stating that we weren't going to fall in line, and that he just needed to share this information with him of, you might want to rethink of who you're friends with and stuff, and told him that, if we couldn't do this or this or this, then we didn't want to have anything to do with the church. And that absolutely was not true at all.
Whoa.
It was, my husband was confronting
Kimberly, come over to the Mystery Project on YouTube. You can actually watch the video with us.
John Paul of how I was being treated, how things were in the church and everything. And it needed to be talked about and everything. Because even in that meeting, John Paul looks at me and he says, "You're not good enough and your heart is not in the kingdom," which meant I wasn't giving enough money. And for a pastor to say to someone, "You're not good enough."
You what?
That's crazy.
First of all, what gives you the right to say that to somebody? And then I truly knew how he felt about me at that point by him saying that stuff. And I think it was the day after that meeting, or even 2 days later, he came to the house and he said, "Well, I want to apologize for my actions and everything in that meeting. I didn't handle it right." And I was like, "Okay, thank you for apologizing." And I looked at him and I said, "You mentioned that you don't think my heart is in the kingdom." I said, "If you would just get to know me and get to know who I am, you would know where my heart is at." And as I'm saying these things, he is inching his way closer to that door. And by the time I was pretty much almost done, he was already at the front door. And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave. I'll see you guys later." He truly did not want to hear anything I had to say.
Damn.
Yeah.
So that apology, honestly, it meant nothing to me because his actions were no different.
Well, it's just like his love bombing of you initially, right? It just didn't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't going to follow through with any of it. It was just words.
Yep.
Okay. Have you noticed since leaving Solid Rock, have you noticed any of this kind of love bombing behavior at other churches you've been to, either before or after Solid Rock?
Yes. So after we left Solid Rock and everything, and we're trying to heal from the situation and stuff, my husband had gotten back in contact with a pastor that he had known for quite some time, at least 15 years. He used to be his worship leader. They had a falling out, but they got reconnected.
Jillian, thank you.
In 2020. Well, actually, toward the end of 2019 into 2020. And we essentially moved from Myrtle Beach to Oklahoma and stuff to help him with starting his church. It was starting out as like a home church, and my husband was going to do the worship and help with the media and stuff like that. And once again, he only wanted my husband for his giftings. He didn't want anything to do with me. He actually at one point because we found this out later, he told his son that I had Jezebel all over me. Yeah. And, when asked to do certain things, he never asked me to really do anything. It was all asking my husband to do everything. And again, I was just kind of along for the ride, and I was starting to see things behind closed doors. And I would tell my husband, I said, if this is what ministry is like, I do not want any part of it.
Yeah.
Because it was just he was very self-seeking,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted, again, it was about money. And
Yep.
if you were giving money, he was all about you. And once we stopped giving money, he basically tossed us to the side. We were no longer valuable to him anymore.
Yeah. And I see it in a lot of churches too. And the reason I ask that is because I really think it's important for people to realize that this is not unique to Solid Rock, even though it's happening at Solid Rock. Cult love bombing is happening in so many churches, and it is extremely common. But I think another thing that would be helpful in encouraging people is to talk about how did you and your husband overcome the feelings, or rather your husband, because you didn't feel obligated to them because they didn't love bomb you really that much. But how did your husband overcome those feelings, if you could, dare I say, speak for him, of feeling love bombed and obligated to the church when you guys decided to leave? Like, what was the last straw where the love bombing was no longer an issue, and it was just like, we've got to go. This is no, we're done.
I think with the meeting that we had and stuff, it kind of truly showed who John Paul was and everything. But also, my husband actually, what kind of made him wake up in a sense was he had a dream about me. God gave him this dream of my husband saw me, and there was like all these snakes around me, and it was kind of like whispers and everything that, what some people do, like there's snakes in the grass, and there in that dream he saw the snakes around me, but the whispers of people essentially talking about me behind my back in
Mm.
in the church and stuff. And when he told me about that dream, he was like, oh my goodness, this is what's going on. And I said, I've been trying to tell you this the whole time.
Damn.
But it took that to him to finally see things that were happening, and the treatment that was happening to me and stuff. So once his eyes were fully open to that,
Mm.
he then started to really rethink things, and he's like, we have to get out of here. Like we have to leave.
Yeah.
Because it was no longer of, oh, let's just try to give them the benefit of the doubt. It was actual real division that they were trying to create between me and my husband.
Right. Yep.
Damn.
And well, it's like you said, your husband chose you over the church, and for a church to think that a husband and wife would divide over them is, I mean, that's quite some entitlement and audacity. But
That's some Jody Hildebrandt shit right there. Y'all remember that one, huh? Oh, you shouldn't be anywhere near your husbands. No, you should be near me. I'm Jody Hildebrandt. Me, 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 me. It's crazy as hell, man. These people are wackos. It's crazy. Thumbs up in the chat if y'all know what I'm saying. Let's keep going. There's like a minute or two left on this video, and then we got one last one to watch. YouTube, hit the subscribe button, tap the like button. We got 12 more likes, YouTube, and we hit 200. TikTok, keep tapping the screen. Let's get 75,000 likes. We're very close. Thank you for the little high bears, y'all. We're about halfway there. I appreciate it. You don't have to do that, but thank you for supporting the channel. The TikTok is not monetized at all. So other than the live gifts and the subscription. So thank you for supporting the channel during the live streams. I appreciate it. You don't have to do that, but it is appreciated. All right, let's keep going, y'all. A little bit left.
that's exactly how cult leaders feel. They think that they're the most important thing in your life. but beware the cult love bomb.
Yes.
It's really easy to see once you know what it is and when you know what you're looking for. But I know how hard it is to see the red flags and walk away, especially when you're under the influence of being love bombed, because you want to be nice to these people who are being so nice to you. Sometimes even when we see them and recognize them for what they are, we get sucked in because we think we're just being paranoid, or maybe we're being too judgmental. And our tendency to be loving and give people a chance to prove us wrong can get us caught and gets us sucked in. But until next time, thank you again, Alicia.
Oh man. Okay, here we go. Last video. Oh God, it starts with this.
Is somebody helping you? Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna meet Jesus, bro. Okay.
So John Paul Miller is a 44-year-old pastor at Solid Rock Church in Myrtle Beach. And if you actually visit this church's website, which while I'm recording this, it still does list JP as the pastor, it states, Pastor John Paul Miller spent his teenage years playing the piano in churches as well as nightclubs, and he once believed that
Churches and nightclubs?
You what?
church is only for fake people because they act one way in church and they act a totally another way out in public, which obviously is quite ironic given the circumstances. In 2006, when John Paul was only 26 years old, he in fact started his very first church in South Carolina, the Solid Rock Ministries. He said he held the church within a local library at South Carolina. It was only 6 minutes long because he only allegedly knew one Bible scripture. And it was a very small gathering that only included very close friends, family members, and according to this text here, drug-related acquaintances. And then some...
What?
How dare you? How from there, JP grew a following. It's likely because I believe that he had connections within the field. His own father was also a pastor, Reginald Wayne Miller. He was a well-known pastor within the Myrtle Beach area, and so it kind of ran in the family. However, Pastor Reginald has a checkered past, as he has been accused of turning his Bible college
A checkered past
into a forced labor camp for foreign students. So JP's
insane
dad, Reginald, he allegedly made teens work for little to no pay for more than 50 hours a week, all while housing them in rooms without hot water, heating, or air conditioning. He also allegedly
What the hell?
had threatened to revoke their student visas if they complained or failed to comply with his demands. In 2014, Reginald took a deal with the federal prosecutors after pleading guilty to fraud in foreign labor contracting, visa fraud, and willful failure to pay minimum wage. And so, yeah, those are pretty steep charges.
This is crazy as hell.
And this criminal history, along with being a pastor, also runs in the family, as JP has quite a history with the law as well. This includes dozens of traffic violations and a previous conviction for assault and battery. Get this, when JP was only 19 years old, he drove his pickup truck into a woman 2 times. It is said that this lady was out sandbagging the area, which is something they do when they're having heavy flooding. Not only did he drive his truck into her 2 times, but then he proceeded to accelerate his truck and dragged her approximately 100 yards after she had notioned to him to slow down. And though she did thankfully survive this attack, she of course filed a civil lawsuit against him for severe and permanent injuries. He was given a suspended 4-year prison sentence, meaning that he would not need to serve time if he abided by all the terms of his probation. So this included a small fine and 500 hours of community service. So to me, I read that and I was just entirely shocked. He drove his truck into a lady twice, not once, twice, dragged her body 100 yards, and was only given basically probation and community service. To me, blown away. I have to wonder if it's because he had connections, because that could have been
It's about connection.
and deadly, and the punishment doesn't seem to fit the crime. That gives you a really good idea of who we are talking about here, Pastor John Paul Miller. And that's only stuff that just happened before, obviously, the situation with him and Micah, but there is a lot more here, a lot more dirt on this man to go over. So John Paul has 5 children. The first, Logan Hardy, was allegedly born out of wedlock to a woman named Lynn or Lene. And this was when JP was still a senior in high school. From the sounds of it, the relationship between JP and Lynn was very toxic, which we're going to see is a very obvious theme with JP and his partners. So the two continued to battle over custody.
I think it's more JP, not his partners.
Over their son Logan. And JP actually admits to refusing to follow their visitation agreements, even disrupting his son's time at daycare. JP's dad, Reginald, actually wrote a letter to the courts suggesting that Logan should be raised with JP in a Christian household and that he would do better with JP. And I found the letter. If you read it, I'll put it here on the screen.
Whoa.
Very chauvinistic, and just again is very telling of the dynamic and the behaviors within this family. But it wasn't until later on when JP actually married his first wife, Alison Williams, where they came to some kind of custody agreement with Logan. So like I said, JP was married once before Micah. Her name was Alison, and they were married for 16 years. Those two had 4 children together, and in a strange twist, Micah was actually the babysitter for JP and his previous wife, Alison.
Yep.
So Micah joined JP's church and youth group when she was only 14 years old, and when she turned 18 in 2012, Micah married a man named Jeremy Deese. Jeremy was not only close friends with JP, but JP actually officiated Micah and Jeremy's wedding. And it's alleged that JP realized he loved Micah when he saw her walk down the aisle to marry Jeremy. And in 2000...
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, God. This is the dude that's officiating the wedding. So he's the one saying, do you take this person to be your lawful? Yeah, all that. And he says when he saw her walking down the aisle, that's when he was like, oh, yeah.
15.
Bro.
How dare you?
What the fuck?
The 2 of them, that's Micah and JP, were then discovered to actually be having an affair, leading to both married couples to file for divorce in September 2016. And actually, according to an affidavit that's since come out, Alison, his first wife, has actually claimed that JP has had multiple relations with girls under the age of 16. Alison
Yeah, you gonna burn in hell for that.
You what?
writes in the affidavit, he had also confessed to me and other staff members of the church that he had had sexual encounters with young females from the church. When the defendant's affair was discovered, the church leaders demanded that the defendant seek counseling for sexual addiction. And when he refused, the majority of our church left the congregation. Alison states that she tried to reach out to the minor females when she was able to identify them and have them come forward and report his actions, but they allegedly declined to come forward because they were fearful of retribution from the pastor. And so Alison actually went ahead and filed a report herself and was told by the department that she would not likely be believed because they were in the middle of this difficult divorce. Just that alone is pretty infuriating. It's the officer's job to protect and serve. They should do their due diligence to make sure that he wasn't an offender taking advantage of these young females in his role of authority. I mean,
right?
After we learn everything here with JP, I definitely believe Alison. I believe that he has made some very inappropriate choices. But yet, after all of this, after the traffic violations, the assault conviction, the allegations of multiple sexual encounters with young girls, he still somehow maintained his role as a pastor, and still people came and listened to him. You would think that people were getting wind of this, yet people continued to show up and continued to follow his teachings. And yes, like I said, Micah and Jeremy
Kathy, thank you.
Jeremy and John Paul and Allison, they all divorced in the year 2016. And then on New Year's Eve in 2017, guess who got married? Micah and John Paul, because remember, he decided on her wedding day with Jeremy that he loved her and he wanted her to be his.
Oh my God. TikTok, hit the follow button if you're new here. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, I'm live every night, y'all. Tap the screen too. Everybody watching, tap the screen. Let's get 100,000 likes. Cassie, thank you for the bears, y'all. Hit me with the little bears. I appreciate the love and the support. TheHauntedSide.com. Get some off the grid action too if you guys want to support the show. Go check it out. TheHauntedSide.com. TikTok, it's in the bio. Click my face and click that little link down there. Let's keep going. YouTube, hit the thumbs up button too. We need 2 more likes, and we hit 200 likes. So everybody watching on YouTube, do me a favor and hit the little thumbs up button and subscribe. All right, let's keep going.
So now let's go over the timeline of events leading up to Micah's tragic death, because like I said, there is so much to go over leading up to this point that it can be really hard to follow. And so I'm going to try and break it down as concisely as possible. So in October 2023, Micah Miller files for divorce on the grounds of adultery. And then on February 8th, 2024, Micah is petitioned and involuntarily hospitalized for mental health for 48 hours. And during this time, JP was given her belongings, including her purse, her car keys, and according to a sworn affidavit from Micah's sister, during this time when he took all of her belongings, he went into the home and took a lot of Micah's personal items, allegedly stuff that she had been collecting over the years regarding abuse and things that she was going to use in the divorce trial. He took all of it and allegedly erased it all. And then on February 13th, 2024, the divorce case was dismissed because allegedly both Micah and JP decided that they could reconcile. However, on February 22nd, John Paul files for separation himself and asks that he be given exclusive use of the family home, the car, and as well, he demanded that Micah be banned from making any kind of social media posts about him or the church. And then in March, things seem to spiral even more. So there are actually 2 incident reports made on March 11th, 2024 from Micah regarding an unidentified man harassing and following her. So in the first report, Micah heard a pop from her tire, and so when she pulled over, she noticed a piece of metal protruding from the tire. When she called a police officer to the scene, the police officer actually documented that it was a deflation device that you could purchase online. Micah did name a suspect. The name of the suspect was redacted in the report. However, one could assume, allegedly, in my own opinion, allegedly, I'm sure it was John Paul. However, the police stated that there was not a sufficient amount of evidence to prove that the suspect actually placed the device. Later that day, while Micah was at the gas station, she believes that the same man who attempted to slash her tire or deflate her tire showed up at the gas station trying to talk to her. She told the man to leave her alone, and then when she went to go ahead and pull her phone out to record him, he took off. Same day now, she takes her car to a dealership to get her car fixed, and when she's there, they tell her that they actually found a tracking device on her car. She calls up a police officer again. He asks her to meet him outside the magistrate's office where she can show him the device. So she meets him there. She gives him the device. It's confirmed that there was a tracking device. And it's there that she says that she wants to file a restraining order. During this time, when she's talking with the officer outside this office regarding the stalking and the tracking device and the restraining order that she wants to file, she sees the same suspect driving slowly by. She points him out to the officer. This is the same man. And when he notices that they had seen him, he speeds off. And it was right around this time that JP actually delivered this sermon. Listen to this.
Listen, if you ever want to know what I'm going through in life, it's always about what I'm preaching about. God is so good to do that every single time. One day I'm going to preach about getting rich, strong, healthy, and finding a hot wife that loves Jesus. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just kidding. My wife went in the hospital. I looked at her phone and I counted over the past 2 years 18 people who had texted her and said, if you ever want to talk about your husband, you can talk to me and say anything and I'll keep it confidential. Somebody want to hear what somebody else says about their spouse. And 2 of those 18 were men. I thought, what? And I was thinking when I read that, I thought, Mark Cassidy, he's one of our elders here, and Jackie, she oversees our New Testament discipleship. Could you see Mark calling another woman and saying, you know what, I just want to tell you some things about my wife I don't like? Or could you see Jackie calling a woman or a man? Either one. If someone wants to call you and say bad things about somebody else, that's a demon talking to you. And the only way to respond is with the word of God. Because the demons love words that line up with what they want. They cannot stand the word of God. So if anyone calls you and says, listen, I need to tell you about what my husband's doing, my wife, you say, listen, here's what the Bible says you need to do with that, because that's a demon. So there you go. Okay, I feel much better already.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
Crazy as hell. You're not supposed to talk to people when something happens to you. Who says that?
18 people. 18 people. Not 1, not 2, not 3. 18 people reached out to Micah concerned for her safety and well-being in regards to her relationship with JP. That is insane. I just can't get over that number. I can't believe he talked about this within his church so nonchalantly. And I just can't believe that this many people saw what was happening and still what happened as an end result. And then on March 22nd, Micah goes on to Facebook offering advice to those that are in an abusive relationship. And it's really harrowing to watch.
So today my heart's a little heavy. I've had a lot of women that have reached out to me about situations of abuse. And I just want to tell you what a lot of people have told me lately and reminded me, because I think I forgot. I knew, but I pushed it in the back of my head just because of my situation. But you are the bride of Christ. Before anybody else's bride, male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Abuse is abuse. And you are the bride of Christ. And my Bible says that he took all the abuse you could think of for you so that you didn't have to live that life of slavery and bondage and pain. Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship, whether that's sexual, whether that's somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs. Somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs. Or alcohol abuse, or physical abuse, psychological abuse, making you think that
Thank you, Desiree. Thank you.
This is all your fault, or you're a bad mom, or you're a bad wife, or you're a bad husband, or you're not giving it your all when you know you are. God hates divorce. But why? According to everybody I've asked and the scriptures
Lisa Libra, good to see you. Thank you.
that I've found, it's because it hurts people. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think?
It's so sad that she is going through this, and you can tell how hard it is for her. And she's trying to find a way to justify it and trying to find a way to say, okay, enough is enough. Even though I've been told that divorce is wrong, I need to get away from this sack of human garbage.
God feels about that. So I want to remind you, like a bunch of people have been reminding me lately, that I'm God's bride first. And even an earthly spouse who's a good spouse, when they know that their bride is being hurt, just imagine what an earthly spouse does. What do you think your heavenly spouse does? When you're the bride of Christ and he sees his bride going through abuse and hurt, what do you think he thinks about that? So, encouragement in all this is you are the bride of Christ first before anybody else's. And he's got you. And he sees you. And he loves you.
So just 1 month after that post, on April 25th, Micah serves JP with divorce papers. That's April 25th, 2024. And not only 48 hours would Micah allegedly take her own life in the state park.
Robeson County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, are you able to trace the location of my phone?
Man, every time I hear that too, my folder.
Let me see. You don't know where you're at?
A national park.
What's the phone number you're calling me from?
843-655-5242.
Where's the park located at?
In Fair Bluff.
Let's see.
I have my location on, I think, on my phone. Find my phone is on. I just did my location.
Okay, I'm trying. I don't think you are in Robeson County. Are you at the Lumber River State Park?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. Tell me,
Monica, thank you.
what's happened.
I'm about to kill myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
Okay, ma'am. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? Let me make sure I got the exact location where you're at, okay? Just 1 minute.
When investigators arrive on the scene, a gun case is in the passenger seat of Micah's car, and a box in the center console are discovered. The investigators also found a receipt from a pawn shop from the same day of Miller's death. While authorities searched the Lumber River State Park, they were approached by someone who had been fishing that claimed to have found a bag that contained Micah's identification, and that they had also heard someone crying, followed by a loud bang. While the search continued for Micah, another 911 call came in that someone had found a body in the park's water. Law enforcement would then identify the body as Micah Miller. Now, it has been said that JP has an alibi for the day before her death and the day of. Allegedly, he was out of town for a sporting event with his new romantic interest, and this has been confirmed with video footage, but JP was not in the area when Micah lost her life. But it was the way that JP announced Micah's death that really kind of triggered this national attention to the case of Micah Miller. So on April 28th, just 1 day after her passing, JP delivered a sermon to his church, just like he normally does. Things continued to carry on as if nothing happened. JP is seen delivering a sermon, making jokes, boasting about himself. Again, just no signs of grief, no signs of mourning. And after he delivered this nonchalant sermon is when JP asked the members of his church to stand up because he had an announcement to make.
I'm going to make an announcement, and after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please, if you can, so y'all can stand to your feet. Before I make the announcement, I also want to say that my request to you is that you will continue to come to church and serve and give for the next, little bit. 'Cause I don't want to have, I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be a few days, a few weeks, I don't know. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away, and yeah, it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina, and we're gonna have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can. Yeah, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And she wasn't. Y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come. But
I'm sure there's gonna be a whole bunch of details to come.
What the fuck?
That whole thing is just horrible.
just keep our family in your prayers. And I'm going to let Pastor Randall, my bishop, he can pray. I'll give him a microphone. He'll pray out. And if you have anything you want to share as well, I appreciate it.
A few days later on May 5th, Micah's friends and family hold a rally outside the Solid Rock Church seeking justice for Micah. They hold a memorial that same afternoon. And around the same time, JP hosts his own separate memorial service at the church, where he again behaves extremely odd, forcing tears and saying things that are just super weird.
Still didn't hit me. I thought she was going to wake up. You know, I even tried to raise her from the dead one time this week. And that morning, actually, I went to the mall later. She had bought me this dog tag, and the chain broke. So I went to the mall to get it fixed. And I saw a female about 20, 30 feet in front of me. And she was wearing one of Micah's dresses. And she had the same tattoo Micah has on her arm and the exact same hair. And out of just instinct, I screamed, "Micah!" And the girl turned, and it was one of her sisters. And I thought I raised her from the dead. She's alive, you know.
And then so the following day,
God, this dude sucks. Man, too bad it's not illegal to just be a shitty person, you know? That's life right there. Just, you know, those people that just like, you're like, huh? How do you function? Like, everybody hates you. You go to the grocery store and the person is ringing you up, scanning your onions and shit. It's probably like, I hate you. I don't even know why, but I hate you. You know what I mean? He's like, just like you just get the vibe from him. Like, just, ugh. All right, let's keep going.
on May 6th, the county's medical examiner makes a statement that Micah's death was indeed self-inflicted based on the nature of the wound. And then in a statement from JP's attorney, who is also a member of JP's church, he says,
the one thing I don't get to, they said earlier when his first wife, Alison, went to the authorities and was like, hey, you know, I've got these minors that are saying this kind of stuff happened. And they were like, no one's going to believe you. You know, no, he's a pastor. Like, you know, there's nothing's going to happen there. And then it's like in this situation. Oh, no, he's a pastor. He wasn't even there. Oh, yeah, you know, don't worry about it. Like, you just, if they were saying that for one thing, would they say that for another thing? I don't know. But it is so weird the way he acted that whole freaking time. That's why we're all talking about it. That's why it's like took over the universe for the last few weeks.
our client refutes any report that suggests he ever abused
Month and a half.
his wife. It has come to light that Micah Miller struggled with mental illness, specifically bipolar disorder, which, when not properly managed, led to paranoid episodes and self-destructive behavior. Again, Micah suffered from mental illness, and some reports made by her in the recent past are nonsensical. This unfortunate reality underscores the importance of destigmatizing mental health issues and ensuring those affected receive appropriate support and treatment. I think that there is clear evidence that JP was indeed abusive towards Micah, and the fact that he would even deny these claims is absolutely ridiculous. Micah filed so many reports, and so many outsiders saw firsthand JP's abusive tendencies. And there are also documented emails from JP himself where he admits to his controlling and abusive behaviors. For example, JP actually posted a topless photo of Micah on the internet. He said he only left it up for an hour, and he did it essentially out of spite because he was upset with her. But still, even 1 hour, the fact that he would take a photo of her in that way and share it with the public, again, really just shows you how sickening JP really is. In an email he writes, "I'm sorry for putting a picture of you on the internet. It was for less than 1 hour and immediately taken down. I was hurt that you were telling everyone horrible, intimate details of my past sin, and I just wanted to try and hurt you. Please forgive me. It was evil of me to do that." And then in another email he writes, "When someone hurts me, I try to hurt them back rather than forgive. Instead of me forgiving you, I just attack and try to cause pain." That sounds like a man of God.
No, it sounds like a loser.
What happened to what would Jesus do? And if you look on his church's website, one of their 4 core principles is forgiveness. Yet JP does not hold himself to the same standards. Instead of forgiveness, he aims to hurt even more. He aims to attack. There you have it, people. Pastor John Paul. So Micah's family attorney has hinted that a potential wrongful death lawsuit could be coming against Solid Rock Church based on documents that were left by Micah suggesting that JP used his authority to isolate Micah. Also, the United States Attorney's Office and the FBI have reportedly been called to investigate the death of Micah.
At liberty to say what all they're doing. I'm just pleading that they do, more. I'm pleading that they please, check into this, do some combing, because you will find some connections. You will find some, if nothing else, the influence that drove her to that.
Why was the body cremated so quickly?
Good question. Because he wanted to. We did not want to. We wanted her to be buried. So if anything, other evidence came to light or some kind of connection was made, she could be exhumed and re-examined. Because unbeknownst to us, there was not an autopsy, and there was only a blood alcohol test done. So during the police briefing, the sheriff's briefing, when we were up in, near the incident site in North Carolina, they said that they have plenty of material they have enough sample material to do multiple tests for a long time. So we said, well, we need to move that forward. And we ended up filling paperwork out on the spot after that briefing to do a full toxicology report.
All right. So what do I think? I think that it's probably clear what I think, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think it is very clear that JP has a pattern of abusive behaviors and is a dangerous man. Starting at a young age when he was convicted for assault, to the alleged grooming and multiple sexual encounters with multiple young girls. The
sick
relationship with his first wife, Alison.
Burning hell for that too.
Which I didn't even get into all of the allegations from his first wife, where he has actually been accused of stalking her as well. So this is an incident report made by JP's first wife, Alison, in 2016 regarding an individual who constantly stalked and harassed her. And although the name of the offender is redacted in the report, it's really easy to assume that she's talking about John Paul, as this is right around the same time that the two of them got divorced. And just based on the behavior of the offender, it's really wild to read. And so I want to read some of it to you right now. So it says, on March 6, 2016, the victim reported that the offender constantly stalks and harasses her. The victim said the offender is her blank, and since their breakup, the offender will not leave the victim alone. The victim said the offender comes to her job, her new church, and very often comes to her home. The victim says the offender uses blank, I think it says their children, for an excuse to see her, and the victim feels sure that the offender comes to her home when she is not there.
Several months ago, the reporting officer responded to the victim's residence at the request of her father, who stated that the offender was laying in the victim's front yard. The victim was not home at that time. At that time, the offender appeared to be under the influence of something, and rescue was notified to respond. The offender refused treatment and said that maybe he got his medication mixed up and took his sleeping pills instead of his other medication. Now, remember the intro to this video with John Paul rolling around on the grass talking about meds and meeting Jesus? Sounds a little familiar.
Every time I see this video, I want to rage flip my desk.
Okay.
And then on the next page, it says, the offender told the victim that it is God's will for him to move back into the victim's house. The victim has refused to allow the offender into her home and says that she has no desire for the offender to ever move in with her. Within the past month, the victim said that the offender has moved into a house directly across the pond. What? And in front of the victim's house. Since the offender has moved across the pond from the victim said that the offender will call, text, and tell the victim that he sees her when she leaves and comes home, and that the offender also lets the victim know when he sees the victim has company. The victim said that the offender told her the only thing blocking his view, not allowing the offender to have complete
That tree that he put salt around.
visual access to the front of the victim's residence, is a magnolia tree that is planted in the middle of the cul-de-sac. The victim said that she has noticed several times a white substance spread around the base of the tree and has realized that the substance is Epsom salt. The victim feels sure that the offender is placing the large amount of Epsom salt around the tree in an effort to kill the tree. The victim said that the reason she believes the offender is the one responsible for the salt is because he used the same technique to kill a few trees that were on the property where his church is. What the heck? This man is
Crazy as hell.
absolutely insane. And clearly we see it was not an isolated incident with Micah. This is who John Paul is. He is obviously a stalker and a psycho. I mean, he moved across the street and tried to kill the tree in between their houses. Tell me that's not a crazy person.
Of course, everything we see here with Micah.
That's pretty damn crazy. By the way, TikTok, hit the follow button if you're new here. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, I'm live every night. So if you like these kind of stories, we do current cases, past cases, everything in between. Hit the follow button, y'all. Hit the follow button. Keep tapping the screen like crazy, too. Thank you for the little hand hearts. I appreciate the love and the support. YouTube, same thing. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up button. We got 219 likes on YouTube. Thank you, guys.
With the abusive, controlling tactics, the stalking, the harassing, the exploiting, and complete mistreatment of sweet Micah. This man not only has no business being a pastor, but in my opinion, has no business walking free and belongs in prison. There are a lot of theories out there right now whether or not Micah's death was self-inflicted. Some even believe that her 911 call was actually AI. And though I'm not sure about all of that, I will say that for a man that has made so many claims, so many public claims about Micah's mental health, for a man that was apparently so aware of her struggles, you would think that he wouldn't torment her so much, because he would maybe be concerned for the outcome that did indeed happen. I also think that the police officers deeply failed Micah. So according to their state law, for someone to be convicted of stalking, a person must be able to show a pattern of 2 or more episodes of stalking within a 90-day period. Micah made 5 police reports in a 90-day period, and still no charges were made against JP. Make it make sense. Micah deserves justice. Micah's family deserves justice. And I certainly hope that it is served to them. And in my opinion, I hope that JP is put behind bars.
Damn. Holy hell, those are some good videos. Y'all make sure you show them some love too. The link's down in the bio on YouTube and Rumble. Go subscribe. Cassie, thanks for the little crown. Y'all, YouTube, I love you guys. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Same thing in Rumble, hit the follow button, do all the things. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow night. Go back and rewatch some of the videos, y'all. I'll see you guys later.